What's up, YouTube? I'm going to try to make the best out of a bad situation here because I think the market is going to produce a sustained buying opportunity. We're looking at Bitcoin on the weekly chart, and I am really disappointed with this candle on the weekly here. It has gone below the weekly average of the previous correction, and this is a huge bearish indicator that we're coming down to maybe even test 6,000, possibly lower in the coming few days and possibly the next couple of weeks here. So this is definitely a scary time to be involved in Bitcoin. Despite the Lightning Network having released its beta version, that news is not going to hit the mainstream market for some time, and Bitcoin is very volatile right now. We're just looking at this chart, and it's hard to say where a bottom could be. If we look at where the previous bottom was, it corresponded to the point of the initial breakout and fling upward. So like here, okay, and the initial correction all the way back down, sort of tested that area, got our capitulation, whatever you want to call it, comes back up to here. I'll just draw this little point of call it pressure right now, and now we're heading back down, obviously. And so the big question here is, will this hold? Because there is that principle of pressure turns support. So this used to be pressure as it corresponded to the previous trend. We had the rocket ship upward, that speculative run up, and then subsequent correction. But there's some people in the market that would contend that Bitcoin all the way back from 2017 was on a speculative run up, in that this correction is not going to bottom at 5. It's going to continue downward. And that is really scary for anyone involved in cryptocurrency, because we don't want to lose a lot of money. But in the long run, this could be very good for crypto, because if we sort of acknowledge the premise that this is an emerging technology, that it's not going to disappear, that it's going to gain utility and more people are going to use it, then this speculative, this mania buy up, subsequent runoff, this is completely sort of natural behavior in a market that in a much longer perspective is going to do something like like this. So you take it out and you're quite literally going out to 2022, and okay, Bitcoin is like 65 grand, or maybe even higher. You never know. But that could be what's going on. So you see a run up, and then it dives back down, and it runs up, and then another run up. And this is very typical of emerging markets and emerging technologies. The $1 million question with Bitcoin right now is, where is this correction going to bottom? So let's get in a little closer. And by using the principle of pressure turn support, we can identify points of possible support from the bottoms and support levels of the previous trend. Anyway, I need to get my technical jargon figured out here, because there's a lot better and more concise ways to describe all this. Needless to say, okay, on this bottom trend, if we're headed down to the last resistance level, it'll take us to about here. I'll just draw the speculative segment for you, something like that. Yep, it comes down, and then I think at the very least we'll see a little plateau at this point, a little support. Now we could very well break below that. It hangs out, maybe stays there to about here, and then comes back down. And I hate to say it, guys, but I'll move this little line up to 4,000 for psychological. People like big round whole numbers. But yeah, I mean, by the middle of May, it's not completely unlikely that Bitcoin could be around $4,000. And that is very scary. And we're gonna be honest about it. We're gonna talk about all the reasons why that could happen, and then all the reasons why it might not. and why, if you're in this for the long run, it probably doesn't matter. So the whole point is this. If we're going to see Bitcoin come down to 6,000, down to 4, it depresses me just to think about, but it means that the release, this, I think a lot of this is dependent on how successful the Lightning Network is and how quickly it's gets released. You know, we're in beta testing right now, and if anyone could give me a shout out and tell me what that roadmap and timetable looks like, you know, that's really going to have a big effect on Bitcoin, because if we're already in a bear market and then the Lightning Network has a lot of hangups and is ultimately a failure, that could be the 1-2 punch that really knocks Bitcoin out for quite a while. But if the Lightning Network works, I think we'll find some bullish momentum at some point. So I have this kind of ray drawn here. It's a dotted ray, and just I kind of put it here just to show like in that very long time scale. But a lot of people thought, okay, maybe there was a trend of lows in the previous trend, and that we're going to meet up with that, and that's going to be where we bounce. And so that's right about where we're at right now. And this weekly indicator does not look good. You know, you would have thought that if we were going to bounce off of this point, the week leading up to it would have seen us right maybe at where my cursor is here. The next week would have seen just a little line, maybe on the daily touching, and then a quick bounce and back northward toward 10 grand in the coming few weeks. But unless we see a real rapid turnaround with Bitcoin, guys, I'm worried that we're going to be talking 6,000s pretty soon here over the next few weeks. So, but anyway, the timing of the Lightning Network is really gonna sort of dictate where this correction is going to end, because we can take it to the daily chart to show you this a little more clearly. We're going to draw some trends inside of the correction here. Give me a second. Okay, like that. And I want to make this line a little more ominous looking and a little more solid, because this is a very, very well established bear trend. I mean, clear pressure here, back up to it here, slamming down, taking forever to test it, and then the second it gets back up there, kaboom. So I mean, this trend right here, very strong sell pressure, met a lot of support back here around that 6,500 mark, 7,000 on the daily, and we're coming back to that point again on the daily. We haven't broken through it yet, but the weekly indicator isn't good. Now let's talk about daily indicators. So on the daily, to me, it still looks like we might see double negative on the daily and a little bounce, and then possibly catching some of that momentum from the Lightning Network announcement. So maybe in the next day we come down, we test below 7,000, and 7,000, anything below 7 being the sort of psychological barrier, we see it sort of catch back, and it's sort of an effect like that, sort of like a V. And I don't know what else to call it, a V. I think some people call it, like, what is it, the head and shoulders pattern, or however. Anyway, if on the daily we're talking double negative here, you would see something in the likes of, boom. And I'm going to stop this at this trend here, because I think this pressure is still so strong. But if we get into a support pressure fight, it could get pretty interesting to see the price sort of oscillate between the 7,500 to maybe 9,000 range in the month of April here. And then I guess through the latter half of March. But that sell pressure is threatening. The thing with Bitcoin right now is breaking through this trend right here. If we can make it through that, I mean, if we can somehow do something like this, even if, let's say, you know, at this angle, we come up, we touch 10,000, and then, okay, that's some pressure there, and we sort of do something like this. That's a very, very good sign, because we've broken through that first point of sell pressure, but that's a very steep angle, and the support continues. But the problem is with the Lightning Network announcement, if that's going to dictate when the support's going to come, if it takes longer, you see what I mean? Say the news doesn't start hitting until like June or July, the double negative on the daily might not hold. And then, okay, bad news, Bill takes it down here. Maybe it capitulates a bit, comes back up and tests here. And then with a lack of news or bad news from the Lightning Network, we see it breaking just further down. And guys, at this point, if you're thinking about getting into Bitcoin, do all the research you can on the Lightning Network. But honestly, guys, unless you got a lot of prerequisite knowledge about cryptocurrency, you're not even going to understand what you're reading. I spent a couple hours today trying to understand the Lightning Network, and other than being able to unpack it in layman's terms, I couldn't tell you whether or not it has a chance in hell of working. It sounds like it's going to work. I have confidence in the people developing the technology. I mean, I want to believe it, and it has such potential to really revolutionize cryptocurrency, and particularly Bitcoin, in that we're dealing with a network that can only handle 4 or 5 transactions a second, and increasing that even by a factor of 10 would be impressive. But what I hear about the Lightning Network is we'll put it on par, maybe even exceed like Visa and MasterCard. Well, that's just a game changer for Bitcoin, plain and simple. So the Lightning Network, guys, if you're getting into Bitcoin, got to research the Lightning Network. Now, if you're in this for the long haul, you're actually hoping that this news takes a while. You're going to sell some coins now, and you're going to wait and pray to God that this Lightning Network gets the attention. And even if the Lightning Network were to fail, guys, I think we have to realize that Bitcoin's not the only cryptocurrency. The whole space is still being developed. So if you think everything in this game right now is riding on the Lightning Network, you're absolutely wrong. And in fact, if the Lightning Network fails, I'm confident that another cryptocurrency or another version of something is going to solve the problem. That's just human ingenuity for you. So if we have a situation like that where we get, you know, a 6-month period of the price, you know, heading way down, it's a great opportunity for people my age. I'm 30 years old, and I make enough money where I can put a little bit away. I'm not a lot. I'm not crazy. I'm not rich or anything, but just a little bit, and try to hedge my bets. And, you know, if we see Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a whole in the long run developing a lot of utility and being used by people, I mean, holy cow, you know, the price of it, the more you think about how high Bitcoin could conceivably go, the more it sort of blows your mind, conceivably. Because the whole digital gold sort of argument, right? If Bitcoin can reach the market capitalization of gold, and in some future economy, that doesn't seem out of the question. I mean, you got to really think about this, and how much commerce is going to be done on the internet? How much commerce is going to be done between people who live in different countries? How much? And it's not going to be, you know, just one business between another business. It's going to be person to person. It's going to be individual to individual. Decentralized social media platforms, businesses on top of those platforms. And I'm sorry, but the money we have right now is going to have a lot of trouble keeping up with the speed of that space. And cryptocurrency is a viable solution to that. So, guys, the future economy is ripe for cryptocurrency. And sure, we can be naysayers and say, well, anyone can make one and make the network and this and that. But there is a huge advantage to being first. There's a huge advantage to having been developed. And okay, there's a point in the community. There's going to be another technology that replaces Bitcoin, that replaces blockchain. DAG, Byteball, IOTA, Nano. It might, but it's going to take a long time, and we're going to see that coming. And so, with regard to the crypto space as a whole, blockchain technology is not going anywhere. And with regard to the final utility that the technology is going to offer, it doesn't even matter if it's Bitcoin. It doesn't matter if it's blockchain, I should say. Something's going to do it eventually. And when it does, God only knows what the capitalization will be. So, just to put things in perspective, if Bitcoin reached the current market capitalization of gold, it would be $400,000. And a lot of big gurus in the Bitcoin community, even economists have said, not all of them, a lot of economists are skeptical, but say that it's possible. So we're just going back to this chart right here. And we're going out 10 years. All right? 10 years. I'm giving everyone hope here. I mean, obviously, there's this could be completely wrong, but it just gives everybody hope. So just stick with it. Okay? Market capitalization of Bitcoin reaches gold by 2030, 12 years from now. What is the world going to be like 12 years from now? I've heard another 2 billion people are probably going to live here. There's probably going to be another 4 billion smartphones around for some reason. Everyone's going to be on social media. And guess what? This technology by then, it's going to work. It's going to work. So why not? So buy all the Bitcoin you can right now. Hold on to it. And by the time you're 50, just retire and be happy for the rest of your life. All right, guys, I'm going to get to bed pretty soon here. See y'all later.